Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording live stream of Hearthstone. Let's just jump in here first and make sure that there isn't the ability to see the new cards. Nope, we still cannot go into crafting mode and see the new cards. There was a live stream that showed off some of that, and we now have far more cards in the wild set than we do in the standard set, which I think even like these last three here also might all be going away. Even as far as Witchwood, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I don't know. Yeah, how far or how many are going into wild, but it seems like a lot. And so in the goodbye to the Year of the Mammoth, they've given us a one of these packs, one of these packs, and one of these packs, which it would be hard to remember. Like, isn't this a Journey with the Golden Monkey expansion, and this is Frozen Throne, and yeah, I can't even remember what these are. So we got three packs from the 3 expansions for each account. We can open them now. We might as well, because I don't think that these cards, I don't think these cards are gonna matter for very long. Like, as much as tomorrow I might be streaming, or Thursday when the new expansion comes out, and the new expansion may just come out and that'll be the first opportunity to look at the cards. If that's the case, then I still probably am just gonna do the card pack opening videos. Get a couple epics, that's nice. And yeah, so that'll we'll just look at all the cards, and I don't even know if I'm gonna even try to make deck rebuilds, so this might very well, there was only 3 cards there that were new to me. Apparently one of which being, two of them being epics. Interesting. So I did not have the cards I needed. Actually, getting one Dead Man's Hand probably won't change anything, but getting a second Primordial Drake probably will help. If I tried to do the deck rebuild using hsreplay.net, which I think I still am kind of have to do, because that HS Replays feature tells you what I can do with this 1000 dust that I have, and this 1000 dust should go up by a little bit also. Whereas the recommendation, just build the best deck you have right now, built into Hearthstone, is different. So it's Monday. Theoretically, we only have to do 2 of these. So Warlock Class cards and Paladin. Let's see. I guess we start with Paladin. And the reason we want to start with Paladin is because we're somewhat fresh. We can play ranked. Odd Paladin was winning it, so I'd like to get back up into this. Right now, a presentation is happening, so it's unlikely the Sony State of Play is not going to, I'm not going to get a lot of this news, but maybe at the end of the stream I'll come back and check my Twitter feed, and that will have something useful to say. Meanwhile, other news is, it's not a ton of news. It didn't seem like anything came out on what's on Steam this weekend. It seems like games kind of just not coming out on the weekend on Steam. This might be something that Steam is doing. This might be just something that people have realized that nobody wants games to be released on the weekend. Or it just might be that the What's on Steam Twitter feed is broken again. So this is like the perfect move.
Reporting for duty.
So our first story we have here from TechRaptor is Indonesia considers a PUBG ban. This is kind of funny because inherently this is like way too late, because PUBG is the old thing, not the new thing, as it is. And I thought it was India that had 3 cities where it was straight up illegal to play Fortnite, is I believe how that one broke down. So if they're shifting from Fortnite to, do I want to waste this card, or do I just want to make him draw a card? Yeah. So, like, Fortnite bans in India probably going to affect a lot more than PUBG. So, the article says Indonesia's Communication and Information Technology Ministry is considering banning the Battle Royale PUBG. The debate has been sparked by a call from an Islamic organization in the country for a PUBG ban. So yeah, there's not really much more newsworthy, I think, to say there. Like, this is going to be my editorial opinion. If this actually happened, then I'll come back with another story saying, well, they actually banned it. If this is just political saber rattling, which it almost certainly is, then there's really nothing important to be said in that. And draw a card. In the turn? Okay. I am certainly not familiar. I guess in general, there are so many different versions of Islamic organizations and Islamic divisions, sects, as much as there are so many different versions of Protestant Christian sects that you just can't really, as someone who's not familiar with it, I can't really get an idea on what their feeling is about any video games at all.
For justice.
And nor do I really. They're working on a FATWA to ban the game, apparently. And they're tying it into the Christchurch massacre, which, I mean, I don't really want to talk about that too much because it has nothing to do with video games, but it's blatantly obvious, and the shooter said directly, as far as I understand in his manifesto, that his intention was to include as many different things to be blamed and banned as possible, as his excuse for taking his crazy actions, to create more disharmony, I suppose, in the world. So, I mean, if this was a few decades earlier, they would be blaming that shooting on the fact that he ate sugary cereal and trying to ban sugary cereal. So they're just kind of falling into a trap and using it, which is not really acceptable. Like, and we can always, we know the problem. The problem is mental health. The problem is easy access to guns. Even New Zealand's relatively small number of guns they had in their country, they also were clearly lax on letting foreigners come into their country with guns. And they're hopefully moving to solve that problem. In the end, yeah, I can't. There definitely are Islamic groups out there that hate all things that are not directly about the worship of their religion, in the same way that there are definitely Christian groups out there that hate everything that is not directly built around the worship of their religion. So any excuse and every excuse will be used to take down those type of forms of entertainment. Some people just hate entertainment and they really shouldn't be listened to. Quite frankly, is all that boils down to. Next story, Gamatsu has an article, the free-to-play side-scroller action MMORPG Closers is coming to the PS4 mid-April in Japan. I don't know what it's really about, but it looks slightly interesting. You have this angel anime character, but it's an MMORPG in Japan, so I wouldn't bet heavily that it's ever going to come to the West. Right. So we get rid of that, take 3 damage, kill that. Seriously? Kill that. Kill that. That. And that.
Do you like to play with fire?
Next we have an article from Tech Raptor. House Flipper, that game that was popular for a brief couple of months and kind of was popular among streamers, I think, more than actual people wanting to actually play the game. It has new DLC that allows you to flip your gardens, and I think there might be an old lady avenue here that would potentially convince people to play this. If you like tending a garden and you've become unhealthy or elderly, which is basically old ladies in my mind, the idea of virtually tending a garden while not having to go outside, go out in the heat, go out amongst allergy things, go out amongst insects, there might be something there. In the same way that House Flipper itself was a interesting idea if you like to flip houses, but was smart enough to realize that you can't really afford to flip houses unless you have a considerable amount of extra money sitting around. So here's what it looks like. You start with like a weed-ridden, overgrown yard, and then you can make it like this. I'm still not really fully convinced that House Flipper is a fully featured game enough that you'd really want to play it. It's kind of like the visceral cleanup game where there's just that's an interesting idea, and it's fun if you have several people with you playing visceral cleanup, but if you're just playing it yourself, you probably get bored after a couple hours. I do want to cover that game, but I really would just play the levels once. And then never again. I think House Flipper is kind of that way too. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. A terrifying anti-smoking game called One Leaves, that's O-N-E, Leaves, well let's just show it. One Leaves is free on Xbox One. This is an advertisement agency behind the Bully Hunters campaign. They have partnered with the FDA. Geez, to be the advertisement agency behind Bully Hunters. There was a Bully Hunters 2.0 that didn't get a lot of announcement, where it was probably not the same agency that did it, but it was parents in the UK could hire people to kill their own kids, and yeah, that's not going to get abused in the video games, so that they come to the dinner table. There's a trailer here. I'll look at it and see how scary it really is. Yeah, and that's not unkind thing to do as a parent. That's not something a parent should be doing. Hiring somebody to bully their kids out of a video game.
I fight. I fight.
Freaking. Well, I guess we can just keep playing this game. So the trailer starts with a live action video with a bunch of kids, looks like they're trapped in a hospital, and it says only one leaves, and it seems like the kids might be seeing themselves in hospital rooms.
Was merely a setback.
So this looks like it's a full motion video game, but I don't think it really is. I think it probably isn't.
Let the pain speak to me.
A fun fact to point out is that with the allowance of e-cigarettes to come to popularity, I think nearly 30 years of progress of convincing kids not to smoke was lost. So yeah, that was definitely something that should not have been allowed to happen. That was not a smart move. There is now even less regulation, or at least there was for a time, even less regulation on e-cigarettes than there were on cigarettes. So there was just more nicotine being put in there and more harmful chemicals in general being put in an e-cigarette. If One Leaves was on Steam though, I am free. I might consider playing it. But yeah, don't smoke, kids, I guess is about the best message anyone can say, and anyone I've ever met has specifically said never start smoking. It's horrible. Nobody likes to smoke at all. Not really. Some people will lock themselves down into saying that they like to smoke to justify the fact that they can't quit, but it's not really a true sentiment. And you know it isn't. But yeah, it'll cost you, you'll waste so much money on smoking. And nicotine is way worse and addictive than like marijuana is. So if marijuana is legal and you must smoke something, you can casually smoke marijuana, from what I hear, once a year and not be addicted. If you even take one puff on a cigarette, that might be enough to have you completely addicted for the rest of your life.
Disappointing.
Alright.
battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! Thumbs up. Let's do this.
Moving on, Techruptor. See, if this guy has Mechathune, he's gonna win potentially, but I don't know how he's gonna play all his cards. Techruptor has an article. Sony will stop providing digital download codes to retailers on April 1st. I assume this is a not an April 1st joke, April Fool's Day joke. That is coming up, and we'll have to be careful about announcements around that.
I'm out of cards.
Let's see. Well,
The battle.
I'm just going to leave that guy on the field.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Like, my hope is that if he has Mechathune, this wouldn't mess him up in some way. I don't know why it would mess him up, but
The time has come.
so yeah, if Sony is not giving digital codes to digital games anymore on Steam, well, no, this has nothing to do with Steam. That means the game stores are then going to be in a different position as far as as far as just not having less to sell. See, the only thing I could think he's doing is he's trying to get all of the 4 horsemen in his hand using the panda bears.
Death was merely a setback.
So did he get all 4 and I was just not paying attention?
I return.
He got it? Yeah, I did.
No peace, no rest.
Interesting strategy. Well, I would have won though without that strategy. I'm actually having to really play games nowadays. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Nintendo reveals its best indie games on Switch. Let's see if we can get the full list here. Is top 10 is... These aren't listed numerically, but Stardew Valley, Hollow Knight, Overcooked 2, Undertale, Dead Cells, Enter the Gungeon, Graceful Explosion Machine. That one stands out as one I don't remember or recognize. Celeste, Golf Story, and Overcooked.
None will survive.
I would argue a lot of these games, these indies, were released earlier than the other ones, so so this might just be not a fair comparison as much as it might seem.
Reporting for duty.
But yeah, that feels like that is just all the major games from the first wave of indies released on this Switch. I don't think that there's really a quality mention here because Overcooked 1 and Overcooked 2 both being on the list, I think for a lot of people, if you don't have friends, you wouldn't really want to be playing Overcooked at all.
The battle.
So
The battle.
I think the sales numbers might just be a little deceptive there.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, I can tell I really don't have a lot of games on that came out at all to talk about. It's just all news. And we may have a shorter experience, although I've said that dozens upon dozens of times and it's never actually worked out that way. let's see. Hit this and
Reporting
this,
for duty. Reporting for duty.
and then just end the turn. Gamatsu is republishing a Wall Street Journal article. So their Gamatsu's article is Wall Street Journal. Nintendo to release 2 new Switch models as early as summer. A high-end and a casual models reportedly planned.
It's playtime.
I could see doing a high-end, depending on what a high-end means. And I could see maybe a portable one that doesn't connect to a TV or doesn't have the Joy-Cons removed at all. But otherwise, I don't know what you're really changing. You're making minor changes at best, because it's going to be something like, oh, the screen is smaller on the casual model, or the screen is bigger on the high-end model. I don't think you can really change the processor or the amount of RAM. You can change the amount of storage inside of it, and that almost certainly needs to be done. Particularly for the Switch, since it was this middle-of-the-road light device as far as its hardware power. I could see phasing out the original Switch for 2 different versions, which would be a weird way to go, but you know, that would work.
I fight.
Just gonna kill that to make sure that's dead.
Job done.
See if there's anything more in this article. Yeah, there's no real details in this article though about what it is or what it means, or what the different models would be.
The light protects me.
Do I want to kill something so I can just play something else? I don't think I need to do that. Yeah.
Job done.
Let's see. We do have at least one game here on Steam, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna be too many. So we have this game on Steam called The Jolly Gang's Misadventures in Africa. This looks like a... well, it's not actually Squiggle Vision, but it looks like a cheap animation from Adult Swim. Early adult animation. Maybe not even Adult Swim animation. Let's see. The thing about this game is it's $5.59 discounted, and it's English and Russian, which does not bode well in my opinion. Let's see what else this developer has made. Hidden object bundles that are highly positive. So this is the beginning of that series, it seems. And it's the same company that's publishing it as the same person.
Move quickly.
I'll give this one a chance and follow it, because
The battle. The battle.
it seems like there's a decent chance there.
Reporting for duty.
Repent. I fight.
Took too long.
Unleash me.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna kill several people.
In the light.
I needed to have played this.
Reporting for duty.
and
The Frostborn will
that.
stand ready.
And we'll just kill that guy. And kill that guy. And we'll do the rest of this. Next we have a game on Steam called Butcher Box, which looks like it's a empty Square Arena first-person shooter game. Let's see. Has kind of a Borderlands texture style and on it, but that's kind of it. This looks pretty boring as far as the game. You spend like 5 minutes in this and you'd be done. I assume these are just all pre-bought assets. This is 59 cents discounted, so yeah, that's not of any interest at all. Let's see. This
Reporting for duty.
and then that.
The might of Stormwind.
I fight.
That minion already attacked.
The battle. The battle.
And then that. See, I guess Mondays might just always be the short days. I can't really figure out a way to make Fridays the short days because that's where all the news comes out, unless I just don't talk about news and save up for Mondays. I would have to basically say something along the lines of, oh, I'm not going to do all the daily quests on Friday even though they need to be done, just to give myself a break.
Speak your peace.
One of the things I have been doing, it's kind of nice, is that where I'm more taking entire weekends slowly, or if not completely off.
For justice.
So
The battle.
there's like,
The battle.
so I'm definitely taking it easier than I used to. Of course, I'm also making less content. I didn't even talk about the fact that I finished Cube 2. Compared to Cube 1, QUB is the name of the game. A quick understanding of block extrusion. Cube 2 is way better improvement on that. They switched it over from, I believe, the Unity engine to the Unreal Engine, and that didn't probably change too much other than the way it looked in its lighting and its graphics. But they just put more work into it, made all the puzzles feel a lot more play tested. Apparently he saw a way to victory that I wasn't seeing. The story is better in Cube 2 because you actually do have a point where you can make a decision, go left, go right. We just need to play Warlock cards then now, and I'm just going to play ranked and hope I win. So at the very end of the game, there's not a checkpoint to the very end of the game, so you have to play through the entire last chapter, which is just about 3 kind of long puzzles. But once you figured out how to do it once, the very last puzzle actually to solve was glitched, because I assume because I left my game running for the entirety of the time and I was playing the DirectX 12 version. Those are the 2 reasons that I would guess. It was just glitched, and so it was just not working. Like, I was doing the solution and the action that was supposed to happen was not happening. So I had to exit the game and reload it, and when I reloaded it, it worked. So yeah, Cube 2, good. Maybe you don't even need to play the director's cut of the first game. The story in the director's cut, which was added in the director's cut because Cube 1 really didn't have a story, does connect, but it's not the same characters or anything, so it doesn't really matter. And I would say it seems like Toxic Games probably disappeared. Like, their specific Steam account hasn't been online for 68 days. The DLC season pass for it that gives you 2 puzzle levels says they've only finished 1 puzzle level, but then when I went to their website directly, it said that both level packs had been done. So I don't know if you bought the season pass, which I didn't buy. And there's something to be said about that. The season pass is $13. I probably only paid $10 for Cube 2 or less. So having to pay potentially more money than it costs for the original game for the season pass is asking a lot of money a lot of time. Also, Toxic Games fully funded and published the first game, it seems, by themselves, and then had to have like several other people fund the sequel, which I suspect that means that they are going to have a hard time funding a 3rd game in the series, which you certainly could do a 3rd game in the series. In the same way you could make a Portal 3, but do you really need to? But yeah, it was a good value compared to like Magnetic Cage Closed, which was a terrible game. Yeah. I still would heavily recommend playing Portal 1 and Portal 2 if you haven't played that, and then play the Talos Principle. And then, if you still want 3D puzzle platformer games, play Cube 1, the Director's Cut, and then play Cube 2. I would not recommend playing Magnetic Cage Closed at all.
Your magic shall not save
But also, that is a good indicator that there really isn't any new 3D puzzle platformer that's come out in the last couple of years. Although Cube 2 came out in 2018, so it's about a year past the point when they stopped updating. So yeah, we're not in a long-running drought. It's just there's nothing else I can think of. And I don't know how many of those games you can do because they all have about the same generic story. So once you realize that they all have the same generic idea of a story, then there's kind of nothing new to be said or nothing new to be shown. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Jinkyo Powerful Pro Baseball for the Switch launches June 27th in Japan. This is the small bobblehead baseball game. I think this series has been translated to English and taken to the West, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes to the West too. It has a slight problem in that it won't have the licensed names of characters that are recognizable in the United States baseball field, but that's kind of the only issue. And I don't know if you really do need licensed names for a baseball game.
very useful.
I off the top of my head cannot name any famous pitcher or batter that's playing baseball these days. Babe Ruth is the last one I think I can remember. Personally, I kind of feel like baseball has lost the interest of people in the United States over the past decade or so. It's just just not something people are interested in anymore because it's too long of a pastime. Okay, so one more victory, I get a win streak, I'm back up to 13. Oh, by the way, my secondary account, I finally brought it up to rank 20 so I could do tavern brawls, so I've now put myself in the unenviable position where every time there's a tavern brawl, there's yet another account I could go play and get a pack and try to make my secondary account a little bit more competitive. And I went through it and I dusted all the wild cards and tried to craft all the cards that are about to be moved to the Hall of Fame to get that free dust too. I didn't have enough dust to create all of the legendary ones though. Yeah, but mostly my secondary account is not a focus, so I doubt I really would every week go and try to get another pack just to keep it building. There's been at least a year where I've ignored it, and so I don't think that account would ever get anywhere. The weird thing is you kind of need a boosted account to play Hearthstone the way it's set up. You need to have at least one character at rank 20 the first game you play. That way you have unlocked all the cards and you can actually not have to go through an insane grind that is just going to drive everybody crazy and to quit very early.
Why do you call?
Yeah. The onboarding for new players is still pretty bad on Hearthstone. Gematsu has an article, this week's Japanese game releases. There's a list here, we could go through them. I don't think it really matters to go through this though, come to think of it. Yeah, because this is really just a list of games that I've probably already mentioned their release date for, or it doesn't matter anyways if I haven't mentioned their release date, because they're going to very possibly be only Japanese releases, so that doesn't really affect my mostly Western audience. Gematsu has a different article. Sega Ages Puyo Puyo launches March 28th in Japan, so it includes online play and more. So here's the Puyo Puyo screenshot. Puyo Puyo Tetris, or they don't call it Tetris, they just call it Puyo Puyo. It's a slightly different version of Tetris. Is a game that gets slightly that gets changed and by quite a lot in its art style when it comes over to the West, so you get a very different looking game. As for Sega Ages Puyo Puyo, a Western release was planned for February alongside with Sega Ages Gain Ground, but neither title was ever released and new dates have not been announced, so either those games were completely cancelled or something else happened. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Anthem became the best-selling game of February with $100 million in digital revenue. I've heard people say Anthem though really was a good enough game to play until no, I think they were actually talking about Apex Legends. They made too many games that start with the letter A back to back. Alright, well, I don't want to do that one then, so I'm gonna play this.
Job's done.
And, like, Anthem apparently was the best selling game because there was nothing else on. I mean, that's really all I can guess. Like, it just did a very good job of scheduling itself. But now the Division 2 is out, and
In the light's name.
because of the Division 2, I imagine everybody who was playing Anthem has moved over to the Division 2. And now that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is out, I think a lot of people who are playing the Division are going to move on to that. So, there really are two kinds of video game players. People who move with their friends to the next big thing until they find something that they really like and want to stick with, which is becoming increasingly less common. And then there are single player people who buy a game and can't afford to buy another game for 6 months, so they're gonna have to play it like crazy. And while a lot of games like Anthem and the Division 2 are designed for people who are intended to not play any other game, the truth comes down to there's actually not that many people like that anymore. That's it's not working. The games as service concept is failing miserably to actually keep people on one game for a long time, because games as service really has just been boiled down to we're releasing an unfinished product, and if you are the 10% of suckers that buy that game and can't move on to the next thing, you're gonna just suffer for a very long time until we decide to actually fix our buggy game.
Your magic shall not save you.
Remember, I'm supposed to be playing Warlock cards right now.
Your soul is mine.
Yeah, it's actually very surprising to say Anthem became the best-selling game of February, but I guess there really wasn't anything else big AAA coming out in February. I remember January and February was a horrible experience this year. There's like nothing to say as far as video game news, nothing to say as far as games that have come out.
You shinies.
I don't know if I can do all of this, but let's do this,
In the
this,
light's name.
and this,
It's playtime.
and attack that. Gamma Sutra has an article. PUBG Corporation and NetEase settled the Battlegrounds lawsuits. So this was PUBG Corp took NetEase to court back in April of 2018 and accused the Chinese company of replicating audio and visual elements from Battlegrounds in their mobile game Knives Out, Rules of Survival.
You have
So,
no idea what I'm capable of.
basically, PUBG felt that NetEase stole their audio and visual elements, which almost certainly they did. Like, I can't even give a Chinese company the benefit of the doubt. That is just how it has come down. And maybe that's not accurate, but that's certainly what I've heard from every Western game developer anywhere. So it's not just a United States thing, it's also a everybody thing. Everybody in Europe that makes games says China steals, and I'm sure China will feign offense and say they don't. There you go, let's take the victory. The win streak did not get me back up to 13. So we still have to play 17 Warlock cards. So next we have a game on Steam called Line Loops Logic Puzzles, which this is a single screen Unity game. I hate the gradient. I don't know why people think that that is smart. This is a game where you can only have one line touching each of the boxes with 1, 2 lines have to touch boxes with 2 in it, 3 lines have to touch boxes with 3. So this that's filled in right now doesn't have 1 line in it, and same is true for all these other filled in numbers, and so you have to draw a shape. It's not a terrible idea. It's not well depicted as a single screen Unity puzzle game. And this is the counter side to something like Portal or Cube, is that you could certainly make a logical puzzle game and put very little effort into it and make a single screen Unity game. This is $3.99, and it says thousands of puzzles. You wouldn't really get through 1,000 puzzles, let's be honest. That's not gonna happen. You'd probably only get through a few hundred of them, and that is just asking way too much money for what you're offering. So let's draw a card. Gamasutra has an article here. EA signs a publishing deal with Vicarious Visions founders. Velen Studios, a new studio created by the former Vicarious Visions founders Guha and Karthik Bala, have signed a deal with EA to publish their first game. Yeah, I was like, what did Vicarious Visions make? Like, that's not something I've heard of.
In the light's name.
Someone call for the doctor.
That's incredible.
Let's see. The Ballers formerly founded Vicarious Visions in 1990, and the studio is best known for working on titles like Guitar Hero series, the Skylanders series, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and Destiny 2. So, seems like they are a secondary third-party company that does support work, or Vicarious Vision was. How about we do that, and then do that, and then do that, and then do that, and then we'll end the turn. Well, they messed up my scheme there, but shouldn't be a big deal. Let's play this. Here, 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 here. And just attack there. Let's see. No further information about the unannounced game was talked about. So EA has signed with a small company, a new company, to publish some new game that they have like no details about at all. Alright, we're halfway through rank 13. Let's see if we can get to rank 12. Gamasutra has an article. Get a job. DeepMind is hiring a games designer. So if you want to be a games designer at DeepMind, that is located in London, England, the United Kingdom, that job is available to you. Although I will editorialize here and say, I don't know if now is a good time to work in the UK amid all of the questions around Brexit. Moving on, TechRaptor has this article. Void VR tackles suicide in the latest experience, I'm Fine. So it's called I'm Fine VR Suicide Awareness Experience. I'm not sure I frankly would trust a video game developer to appropriately present that story and safely present that story. There is a danger certainly talking about suicide in general, because it tends to get into people's heads, and if somebody is already in a suggestible state, it might stick in their head and echo around and grow bigger until it straight happens. There is scientific evidence that says that when someone around you that you know commits suicide, you're statistically higher to commit it yourself. And there's actually recent news I don't want to mention that is causing that to seemingly happen as we're speaking. So yeah, I think mental health, even well-meaning games like this, mental health awareness things probably shouldn't be done by people just making games on itch.io, which is where this game is for free. But they're also taking donations and then donating those donations to suicide prevention organizations across the world. So that's another one of those scenarios where you really don't know where the money is going. They're just saying it's going somewhere, and you have no way of proving one way or the other if that's true.
Time runs out on me.
Seems like we might have a dead player, which would be cool. Let's see.
Face the light.
Let's see. Actually, we got several stories around death today, on a weird coincidence. But yeah.
Your magic shall not save you.
Face the light.
I would also, and this is going to be a controversial hot take, I would also say that the conversation around suicide is the wrong conversation, because it's a just don't do it, things will get better, this is a temporary feeling. That's not always true. Like, if we put medical assisted suicide on the table and said, look, here are the real people that should do this action, what you're feeling right now is not in line with these people, because only a few people really begrudge a 90-year-old man from being able to overdose on morphine or something and pass away peacefully in his sleep. What we're really concerned about is angsty teenagers doing it. In fact, most people don't even care if it were a 26-year-old person that committed suicide. Except for their friends and families, of course, depending on the situation. So, if we're teaching basically an abstinence-only policy on suicide, in the same way that we're teaching, in the United States at least, an abstinence-only pregnancy prevention strategy, if we said, here's some permanent factors, here's a pros, here's a cons list, here's how you could logic yourself out of this emotional feeling, I think that is a message that might resound around other people, because it's easy to get wrapped up in the emotional responses, but and not even consider the logical responses. But I guess that's really just a personal opinion. And so if you want to, everybody's aware of suicide, so awareness is the wrong thing. We should teach logic and everything, I would say, and perhaps talk about people who and maybe even have debates about here's an example of somebody that we think deserves the dignity to die peacefully instead of suffer for the rest of their life with no hope of getting better. Of course, that may be an incredibly depressing class to take, so that might not help anything. Moving on to the next story, which is also around death. GameIndustry.biz has the Take-Two founder Ryan Brandt has died. The publisher expressed his condolences and gratitude for Brandt for his vision and contributions. He died at the age of 49. It was announced by a funeral service in West Palm Beach, Florida. The question here is, was there anything that indicated this was going to happen, or is this just a straight surprise to everyone? Because there is a significant amount of people who have like terminal illness in the video game industry that get more coverage than regular people at regular jobs who have terminal illnesses. Let's see. Brandt founded Take-Two in 1993 and served as a company until February 2001. Take-Two also was around the rumors of being acquired by Sony. He stepped down as CEO in 2001 but stayed on with the company as chairman for several years and then took a non-executive role as VP of production until parting ways with the company in 2016. In 2007, Brandt reached a settlement with the SEC and pled guilty to the New York County District Attorney's Office to charges related to stock option backdating practices during his time as CEO and chairman. So he was one of the guys at Take-Two that was doing insider trading or stock option manipulations, which is why I was heavily suspicious of the news that Sony was potentially going to acquire Take-Two. I was like, that doesn't sound right. But maybe the people in charge now don't do that, but I guess. Yeah, there's nothing here that indicates how he died, though, so who knows what the reason is. And that's the problem with any kind of obituary or anything, is that you're often not given the right facts. It's like, how did he die? And usually it's always an embarrassing way that they died. The irony of ironies would be that he killed himself, but after all that suicide talk, but it's no evidence to that. For all I know, just had a heart attack. He severe malnutrition or something like that. Who knows?
Let the hunt begin. Your soul shall be mine.
Let's just keep on playing. Next, we have an article we already talked about. Gamma Sutra has the same article. Sony is pulling digital PS4 games from sale at GameStop and other retailers, which could mean a couple different things, I suppose. You could take that a couple different ways. It could mean that the PlayStation 5 is about to be announced and that's why they're pulling the codes. It could be that Sony just wants to make all the money and not give a percentage to these stores.
Greetings, traveler.
It was kind of my understanding that you weren't really even making a lot of profit by selling the game codes, that maybe they weren't even getting a percentage cut at all, that the stores weren't. That would be weird, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 1%, 5%, not anywhere close to a 30% cut for the sales code, and they were just doing it because of because it brought people into a store. And now GameStop and other stores are going to have even less to put on the shelves, which I guess that's the way in which video game stores are going to go anyways, is we're going to continuously have less and less games that come out in physical versions, and less games that people would actually go to a store to get in physical versions. As someone who's been a PC gamer now for a very long time, I haven't gone to a store to buy a video game in an extremely long amount of time. The only thing that kind of makes sense is if you have a video game store and you have little kids and you want to buy used games and try to save some money there. But even used games are often not cheaper, or often they're even more expensive than just waiting till a Steam sale happens or a Humble Bundle happens to get the game on PC.
I don't have enough mana.
Okay.
In the light's name.
Draw the card first. Then draw this card. Then in return. Next, Gematsu has an interesting story. This one is really surprising because a sequel to Beneath a Steel Sky has been announced, called Beyond a Steel Sky, for consoles, PC, and Apple devices. It's a dystopian cyberpunk adventure game due out in 2019. Now, Beneath a Steel Sky is a game that you very possibly would be familiar with if you've done the Scum VM emulator, done anything with that, because it is like completely free to play with if you're interested, and it's an old point and click game, one of the earliest, and it's a fine story, but it kind of, I can't really remember the ending, but I think the ending kind of wrapped it up. So throughout the game, you start at the very top of the world and you have to work your way down to the bottom of the world, and you have to get like key cards to go down elevators, and there's really only like 3 or 4 sections of the world. What is being shown here, it really doesn't match what Beneath a Steel Sky looks like, but it really couldn't. So let's show it off. Like, the idea, I imagine, is they've taken a very loose concept and they're continuing this, but you'd almost have to remake the original game to match this artistic style, which looks way different. It's from Revolution Software, and it's, I think, in part being funded by Apple due to Apple announcing this Apple Arcade service. I kind of wish that they had a screenshot of what the original game looked like, and I doubt you're playing as the character from the first game. Alright. I'm looking for a 1 mana thing. Well, that didn't work. Let's save ourselves some frustration and kill that first. So there's a trailer here. So it's kind of all over the place, because now you've got this game from like 25, maybe 30 years ago getting a sequel, which really means just any game that has ever been made could get a sequel. If there was a new Hugo's House of Horrors game or a new E.T. from Atari game, I would not be surprised. Looking at the trailer, this is not just a 3D version of a point-and-click adventure. You've got some kind of scanner tool that you're reprogramming things to open passageways. So there's more puzzles to it. It seems like there's some kind of birds that will follow you in some section. The logo looks somewhat reminiscent of the logo of the original game. Yeah, you could just constantly make sequels to old games as long as the company still exists. The problem, of course, is the Most of those companies don't exist. Yeah. So this guy thinks I've lost. So Variety also has an article. It seems like Revolution Software. Alright, we're up to rank 12. Let's see, let's come over here and show this off first. This is a reward worth being happy about. Like, the month is about to end too, so even getting up to any higher, I'll just run out of time. So here's a Variety screenshot of Beyond the Steel Sky, or I imagine that's not actually a screenshot as much as just a concept art. There will be other people you're talking to.
Fight with honor. Your soul shall be mine.
Yeah. Interesting. Very, very interesting. The Apple video game service, I don't know if there's really a lot of trust that I would have in Apple. Apple is not as bad as Google to start something and then give up on it. And if anything, Apple is kind of known for not starting things unless they are willing to at least commit to them. I'd say like the Apple Watch is a great example of that, because while the Apple Watch hasn't been an amazing success, it's made them money, and they will almost certainly make a new Apple Watch every 4 to 8 years and convince more people to buy it, even if it's only a slight improvement. And the same is true for the iMac machines and the Macintosh computers. Is like they recently got an upgrade, and they're not amazingly great upgrades, but they're good enough to keep Apple fanboys buying their products. So they're leading from behind in a lot of ways with their technology. So if they're getting into video games on their streaming devices, that is because they are leading from behind and copying what Google Stadia is trying to do, I imagine, and they might succeed because of that. One's a little iffy. That one's a hard one to get a feeling on. Let's see, is there anything else I can do? No, we just have to play.
It's playtime.
Would I want to get onto Apple's streaming video game service, or would I recommend people get into that? No. But if you already have all Apple products, if you are an Apple fanboy, if this is at some point just going to become, oh, I have an iTunes account, and because I have the iTunes account I get these games, that would be cool. That being said, there's also some questions to be asked about what level of quality is are the games going to be on the Apple service. I haven't seen a lot about it yet, but if it is just, yes, it can do 3D point-and-click adventure games, but no, it can't do fighting games, no, it can't do first-person shooter games, no, it can't do open-world games, that's a problem. That's the same problem with Google Stadia. If it can't do all the games that are getting made, then it's basically a worthless product.
Again.
Let's see. I'm just trying to draw every card possible. Next we have a game on Steam called Sheep Collision. It's literally just assets of sheep in a round pen attacking each other, and sometimes you knock the fence down and knock them over the edge. And that's pretty much it. It's a low effort game for $9.89. I imagine the controls control awful, and that is supposed to be the selling point on it. So yeah. Nothing Nothing gonna happen with that. This. This. Draw a card. Man, it's taken a really long time to get one of these. Both of those services, which maybe Apple just announced the service and they always had it in their back pocket. Both of those services are very iffy, like Google Stadia and Apple Arcade. Apple Arcade's name sounds a lot better. Let's see. And you know, Google Stadia should just be called Google Play Games.
Reporting for duty.
And that would make way more sense. They already have Google Play. So freaking just call it Google Play Games and you've got it. That is also though part of the problem is that I'm gonna kill this guy just to be certain. Is what is going to be on Apple Arcade just a bunch of iOS cell phone mobile games, because the cell phone mobile games on Apple, to my understanding as somebody who doesn't use an Apple product, is not any better than the games
That was a mistake.
on any other mobile platform. So if you see a lot of things that can be played on Apple TV but they're terrible, that's not really gonna answer or help anything. Just drawing more cards. I'm getting myself dangerously low in life. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. It says he cleared the field. All that set up and he cleared the field. Alright. Start over. So TechRaptor has this article. Conglomerate 451 melds classic dungeon crawling with cyberpunk. Conglomerate? I guess that's how you spell conglomerate, and I guess I've never seen it written. When is this game out? Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it has a release time, so this is kind of a hype article. I'll watch the trailer, but just because I don't have a lot of news today. I don't even know what I can do. I guess I can do this. And I can do this. And I can do this. And in the turn. Yeah, it looks like this trailer is mostly just a cutscene, unless the game is very different from what I think it is. Yeah, the first part of the trailer was really just a cutscene, and then it's a dungeon crawler game that has 3D graphics instead of your usual dungeon crawler looking game that has a bunch of anime characters in it. Let's see. Do we have enough to do this? If I play this, and then this, and then that.
Job done by the
turn. Gamer Sutra has a blog here. Game software hardware could top 200 billion by 2023 despite short-term questions. This is really just an opinion piece on Gamer Sutra, but it's an interesting idea. Gematsu has an article. Apple Arcade game subscription service announced includes new games from Hironobu Sakaguchi and more. Maybe I need to show that name. Hironobu Sakaguchi. So supposedly it's playable on some kind of PC or iMac and iBooks and tablets and iPhones. I'm gonna have to actually read more of this though. This thing is killing me, I think.
Your magic shall not save you.
Okay. Let's kill this. Kill this. And give him 1 damage. And then kill this.
I'm almost
Let's see.
cards.
Apple has announced Apple Arcade service, a game subscription service that will feature over 100 new and exclusive games. Although I don't know how they're exclusive when Beyond the Steel Sky said specifically it's coming to consoles and other things, including original releases from Hironobu Sakaguchi. I imagine that name is more familiar to Japanese people. Kinwong Willwright and dozens of more. Finally, finally I have the card that I wanted.
I'm out of cards.
Every game is an all-you-can-play, ad-free, without additional purchase, and playable offline. So that's all the things you could worry about. Is it a timed release? It doesn't have ads. Does it have in-app purchases? And is it playable offline? Okay. And I guess we're kind of getting that answer. So we're probably only going to make it to rank 12. I don't see a real reason to do this one right now. Let's save that for Wednesday. And let's move over to the European account. Let's see. Apple is handpicking the Apple Arcade games lineup, as well as working closely with developers to contribute to development costs to bring said games to life. The service will feature titles from Annapurna Interactive, Bossa Studio, Cartoon Network, Finja, Giant Squid Studios, Clay Entertainment, Konami, Lego, Mr. Walker Corporation, Sega Snowman, Utswu Games, and dozens more. The thing I think you run into in this is who wouldn't partner with Apple in some part? Like, that's just not an answer, a phone call you don't answer. Even if you're not gonna give them your best game, you would suspect that there's probably a lot of people on Apple products that don't play video games that you might convince to play video games. And that might be a new audience. Also, if you're a video game developer and since video game developers tend to love censorship / curated experiences, the idea of being on an Apple service that feels like it's going to be a curated experience in the sense that there won't be as much competition as Steam, that might be another thing that appeals to them. So yeah, again, because of the end of the year of the Mammoth, we got these 3 packs. And I suspect all of these will get dusted, but maybe not since this is a European account. In all honesty, if Beyond the Steel Sky is the most is the most recognizable game or the most interesting game on the service, that's not a lot. Of course, Apple could just spend more money, and look at how much dust I have. Ridiculous. I have so much dust. Yeah, it's gonna be weird because the European and Asian account may end up having more more cards in the newer sets than anything else. Let's just play Hunter, I suppose. Ranked Hunter is all I think it matters. Hunter, ranked, play. Let's go. So, over here, the games listed here on Gematsu is Beyond the Steel Sky. That was the program here, by the way. That pop-up box. And then we have Enter the Constructs. I have no idea what that is. A game called Phantazine. This looks like a more anime game. Let's see. A new game from the creator of Final Fantasy. Mistwalker, built on real world dioramas, which were then photographed and added to with 3D characters. So is that actually even a game? Interesting. Guess I'll keep all those cards. Next we have Hot Lava Don't Touch, which we've seen several of these games. Lego Brawls from Red Games, not from TT Games, Warner Brothers. So this is not a TT standard Lego game. I'm not sure if that would be well received. Oceanhorn 2 Knights of the Lost Realm. Yeah, most of these never heard of. The Pathless from Annapurna game. Surreal Mythic Adventure, Hunter and Eagle explore vast forested island to dispel a curse. Yeah, these seem like these are probably going to be pretty basic games. Projection First Light. This looks like a Limbo clone and there's no description. Sonic Racing. Yeah, that might be a top seller. Where Cards Fall. I don't know how this doesn't just end up being a example of a bunch of games that are a premium service on top of just the buying regular games on the iTunes store, the Apple store, whatever it's. I don't even know what it's called these days. Right. This, and then this. And this one has rush, so we want to kill that one first. And while we're at it, we want to hit that one, and then hit that one, and then do that. Let's see, next we have, well, that's it. Other games are The Artful Escape Without Pictures, Atone, Heart of the Elder, The Bradwell Conspiracy, Card Apocalypse, Doomsday Vault, Down in Bermuda, Box Project, Frogger, Toy Vault, Hitchhikers, Kings of the Castle, Lego's Art House from Lego Systems AS, which this might be the augmented reality thing that was presented before in Lifelike. Let's see.
I wonder.
Do we do this now? Or do we wait? Let's do this now. And I'll just hit one of these guys just for good measure. More games. Lifelike, Lil Orpheus, Moonimals, Monominals, Mr. Turtle, No Way Home, Overland, Repair, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sneaky Sasquatch. I feel like some of these are definitely Japanese-centric games or Asian-centric games compared to... So there's probably going to be a bit of a mix in all of that. Sneaky Sasquatch, Spidersaurus, UFO on Tape, First Contact, Winding Worlds, and Yaga.
In the light's name.
Let's see. There's some videos here. So that is a very unimpressive list of games because none of them have any name recognition. Maybe that stops being an issue as these games come out and there's more to say about them. Or maybe that is still consistently an issue. Let's see, what do I want to do? I could kill this and then I'd have nothing. I could do this. I need to be able to do this and this. So I'm gonna do this. And just leave it at that. Yeah. There's another video. One of these games looks a lot like Zelda, but it's not. All of these games look like Unity games. They don't look terrible or anything, but they do have kind of that soft CG, cel-shaded look to them compared to an Unreal game, which goes for the hyper-realistic appearance. Let's do this. Alright. Now before I kill that, these have charge. Does anything have rush? No. 2, 4, 6. Hit that. Let's see, hit that, and hit that, and hit that. Yeah, so far unimpressive, and I'm not getting a full list of what these games are going to be playable on. It says here in the article, the service will launch across iOS, macOS, and tvOS devices in the fall in over 150 countries, which tells me that that is not, it's not coming to just online streaming, and it's not coming to any other platforms or PC, Windows PC or anything. And frankly, most of those games, with the exception of Beyond the Steel Sky, which is coming to PC, aren't at a level where that would really matter. Now, as a person who has too much Legos for his age, the AR Lego ability to scan some of those expert sets with a iPad is something I probably would like to get, so I probably will at some point get an iPad, but it's not a high priority, frankly. And even Lego has shifted kind of away from that, and they're not exclusively putting AR into just Apple products. They have a whole, I think it's called Beast Hunters or Ghost Hunters or something, series that's coming out where you can scan it with any kind of mobile device. and unlock mini games. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article, Dead Cells has passed 1 million sales and Switch leads the way on consoles. So okay, Dead Cells has passed 1 million sales. There is something to be said about how much of a sucker people are. The Dead Cells, to my understanding, is still in early access and 1 million people bought it. So the whole idea of don't buy things until they're finished is really not sinking. Let's see. It came on to Steam Early Access May 2017. And then it launched on the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One in August of 2018. I am fairly certain it's still early access. Even now.
To my side. Job's done.
I do want to play Dead Cells. Like, no
Welcome
real
to the show.
insult to Dead Cells, but it is ridiculous, certainly. TechRaptor has an article here. XCOM 20th Anniversary Franchise List, and if this is what I think it is, it would be very useful to have this. So it's telling you the XCOM games in the order that they exist, so that you know which ones to play. Let's see. If I do this, there's a chance I die. Yeah, actually there's a chance I die regardless. So, yeah, I screwed up. I need to play this as a distraction so that I can play this. So I can kill this so I can get it up. Yeah. I still could die, but now that this is pumped up, there's less chance of that. So the order on TechRaptor is UFO, Enemy Unknown, aka XCOM UFO Defense, and then XCOM Terror from the Deep, then XCOM Apocalypse, then XCOM Interceptor, then XCOM First Alien Invasion. I'm not sure all these games really need to be played. Seeing how many there are now, I think I probably will just do quick looks at these things instead of proper videos. XCOM Enforcer, then XCOM Alliance was cancelled, and then XCOM Enemy Unknown in 2012 is probably where you would restart the game and just play that. And then the Bureau XCOM Declassified, and then XCOM Enemy Within, and then XCOM 2 in 2016, XCOM 2 War of the Chosen in 2017. Seriously, do I have to do this? I guess I kinda do. I need to see if I can adapt this to Poison. And so XCOM War of the Chosen 2017 is the latest one. So that is a order, certainly. And I think I probably own a lot of those games. Although, in all fairness, like, this is XCOM Apocalypse, so this looks nothing like the recent XCOM games. So, yeah, hard to make that argument. Let's go ahead and end the turn. Let's see. Gamasutra is owned by the same parent company as GDC, so take that with a grain of salt. That they have an article saying GDC celebrates a record-breaking attendance and locks in 2020 dates. GDC happened. A lot of people came to it. Let's see, 29,000 industry professionals came together, and circle jerk, basically, for the most part. A little bit of other stuff happens, certainly, but not a lot. Like, maybe the lesser reported on events and presentations actually do teach people a thing or two about how to program, but I don't feel like any of the presentations at GDC or any other convention really is going to be a master class that is in depth about this is how we programmed in Unreal, this is how we programmed in Unity, we use this code and this code and this code. It's more top level generic speak. It's like maybe a few pie charts are shown, but probably no real corporate secret information that would actually be helpful. And then it's weird to have two of the main first presenters, one being the CEO of Double Fine, start on the weird side of saying, talking about the Christchurch massacre and saying that this is our moral imperative now to get rid of all those toxic gamers, which is kind of what it is. Like, it's weird to start a game developers conference and say screw the people who play our games, and that's kind of what happened. I'm certainly narrowing down what was said to a very generic statement, but it's not really a misrepresentation from what I saw. When you could have easily just refused to speak about it, because there's nothing that you can say about that at all as a video game developer, and you could just focus on making video games. It's so ridiculous. The SJWs running the video game, and, well, they're not really running it, but there's just too many of them, and they're too vocal for the industry, and they're given a voice when they really shouldn't be. Tim Schafer from Double Fine had no reason really to be giving a speech, because he should be working on Psychonauts 2 and getting that done. Moving on though, we have a game on Steam called Gladiators Ludius Manager, which looks like it's a RPG Maker game where you're just managing gladiators for $2.99. That's not interesting to me. Okay. And what do we want to do now? We're 14 minutes over. I think we can break up the episodes. I need to play another 20 odd, I think, and get both of those done for Wednesday. But maybe I really don't. But yeah, let's break up this recording here and have 2 episodes at least. I don't know if I really have enough news for a 3rd episode. That's going to be it for this recording though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, March 25th. We're on the European account. I just need to play some odd cost cards, and so I guess I will try the Paladin deck, because I bet it's an odd Paladin deck, and we'll probably just have to play 1 game, and then we'll be done with the European account and over to the Asian account. Not a lot of games came out over the weekend, but there's a bit of news, and since there might be some new news that came out before I start streaming. Let's see, we have an article here from Gamatsu. EA is going to publish Velen Studios' team-based action game for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and smartphones. I'm not sure that this game has an actual name. I just see a logo. Yeah, this game doesn't even have it. Have a name, so Velen Studios was previously was made by the founders of Vicarious Visions that worked as, I think, a third-party support company on games like Guitar Hero, Skylanders, Rock Band, Super Mario Maker, Metroid Prime, Destiny, Uncharted. They definitely don't feel like they were the first party developer on any of those, so this is an example of a third-party studio making enough money and getting enough skill by working as a support company to now potentially branch out and make their own intellectual property, their own IP, and that, in my opinion, is probably the right way to start a video game company. Even if you have a great idea, you probably are better off giving it some time and working for 6 to 8 years on other people's games, so that the programmers, the artists, the animators all have time to build up their skill. That's not much of a story though, frankly, because the game does not even have a name. Alright.
The battle! The battle!
I fight.
Next we have a game on Steam called Dakadara, which seems like it's Connect 4. No, not quite Connect 4. Tactical positioning. Well, it looks like it's a game there. This feels like it's a slightly more polished single Unity screen puzzle game. It wants $2.99 as its main price, no discount. So if this came out on a discount, this is something I would give maybe a chance to. So I'll put this on the follow list. After a friendly minion dies, give a random shaman card. Or just get more people on the field.
Speak your peace.
The battle!
I fight.
Reporting for duty.
That was probably the worst redemption trap activation he could have had. GameIndustry.biz has the same article. Vicarious Visions founders signed publishing deal with EA. Quote, after 25 games of making games, I realized I was doing it wrong, says the CEO. So, man, 25 years is a little bit more than I would have thought you should go as a third-party support company, which is what I'm describing it as. I might be totally wrong about that.
Reporting for
Yeah,
duty.
just keep this going.
Get down! The battle! The battle!
I fight.
There we go. This quote goes on. Typically, a game starts in pre-production where there's a pitch, there's an idea that could be really fun. Let's go try and make this game. It could be a Microsoft PowerPoint pitch, or an, I don't know why they put bracket Microsoft PowerPoint, as if people don't know what PowerPoint is. It seems unnecessary.
The light dims, but we fight.
To battle!
here. We got a dead one.
To battle!
That just shielded itself again. We'll wait.
Hit it very hard.
See how this goes.
I fight.
I must move quickly.
I'll take that. That should work nicely.
Done.
Where could be a Microsoft PowerPoint picture, an animatic or animatic or video, and then you have designers, artists, and engineers who go off and run through pre-production. What I realized is that we're missing a phase prior to pre-production, a true discovery phase to find magic, to find the fun. Wow, that's really flowery language. A phase to really prove or disprove concept. It needs to be very failure embracing process where you can where you're iterating and seeing what works and being very divergent and lateral thinking in terms of approach. I don't really disagree with what he's saying. The idea, if Portal had all the polish in it but didn't have the portal gun and it just wasn't a fun mechanic to use the portal gun, then it would have been a failure of a game. As the same is true for any first-person shooter game. If the shooting in it is bad, it doesn't matter how good the story is or how much polish is on the graphics or anything like that. Even The Witcher 3, I'd argue, some of its fighting mechanics weren't the greatest, but they were a big improvement over what Witcher 2 had as far as its sword and shield combinations.
The light dims.
Freaking this is terrible.
Reporting for duty.
This is just ruining me.
For justice.
I fight.
He totally knows he's doing it too.
Hit it very hard. Reporting for duty. Minion already attacked.
What do you mean that minion already attacked? How did that minion already attack? How did this 0-4 already attack? Oh, I guess he did because I had the +1 damage on it. Interesting. The quote goes on, once you find the magic, then the team has an amazing clarity on what they're trying to build. You throw it away and you start over knowing what you want to make. This way you really hit the important validation step in the core experiences because you found something truly special.
That was a mistake. Reporting for duty.
It's a true idea, certainly, but often when developing a game you'll have a gun, a concept, an ability that that is in the game, or that you want in the game, that just does not work for one reason or another. How many of these redemptions
To battle.
am I gonna have to kill?
For justice. To battle. Job done.
So yeah, interesting idea, but I'm not sure I fully agree with the idea of having all of your team at the same time working on concepts when half of your team would be potentially working on animation and level design and things that wouldn't work around gameplay concepts. This concept, that way of pre-production, which still really is just pre-production, or really just like production, really. Video game industry likes to make nonsense terms a lot of times. Like that concept only works if you've got your animators working on some other project during that time, if you've got some other thing that would make sense during that time.
The light dims, but we fight.
That gets them down to 1.
Fight.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Attacknoids, which is just an Arkanoid game. I would say there's a better amount of effort put on this, although this really looks like a mobile game. There's a button here and a button there. But usually the Arkanoid clones on Steam are pretty awful. This actually looks pretty good. That being said, I still would not suggest spending $2.39 discounted to purchase an Arkanoid clone. I don't even know if you really need to play original Arkanoid, let alone a clone. There we go. Hey, interesting. Well, let's play Paladin again, and if I get another victory, I'll be halfway done towards getting the 3rd daily quest. I knew that 3rd daily quest was going to pop up if I played long enough. Next, we have a game on Steam here that's called the Walshingham Files. It looks like an RPG Maker game. It's black bars on the side. Just free for chapter 1 and then probably not free for the rest of it. Yep. Nothing interesting here. Gamer Sutra has an article, game source code is a teaching tool, not a trade secret, argues VGHF founder, that is the Video Game History Foundation. I think that argument, a lot of that is coming from people saying that the source code for something like Donkey Kong or E.T. for the Atari is a trade secret. That source code is so old it doesn't matter. Like, there's no big trade secret in there. On the other hand, if you're trying to make the argument that a brand new game like Anthem should have its source code completely open sourced and out there, I can't really agree with that. I, in some small way, do believe in the concept of copyright, where an actual creator of a game should have an exclusive monopoly to the code of that for some amount of time. I think the amount of time for video games is probably should be a lot lower than 80 years after the death of the creator, which is never because the creator is being claimed to be like EA or a corporation. But I could see a 5-year exclusive, and then the source code is no longer copyrighted, and then it's just, if you keep it a secret and it stays a secret, that's fine. What is this card back? I haven't seen this. How do you get this card back? Is that something you get for the pre-order bonus? In the long run, if you had like just 5 years copyright on video game code, even that would present some problems, because they want to do remasters, they want to do re-releases, and it becomes very difficult to justify funding that if if the code is out there and somebody else can do a better job.
The battle.
And in the end, I think other game developers' bad source code is probably not super helpful. Because if you're using open source libraries to develop your games, which you might be, you're probably going to have a better experience anyways at learning how to use those open source libraries than you are to try and see somebody's proprietary, terribly written code. I like the sentiment of the idea. I think there's probably some lack of realisticness there. Depending on... There's some subjectivity in it that I think is not being made apparent. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Through Abandoned Refuge, which says it's a point-and-click adventure game. And solve puzzles. Let's just skip. This doesn't look terrible, but there seems to be no characters in the game. It seems like it's a empty world. $2 and $2.24, but then there's 3 games here that are bundled together, and it seems like none of them have been reviewed. So let's look at this developer. No, they have been reviewed. It just wasn't showing me positive, mostly positive. So yeah, I need to look at these and see if I want to. Yeah, for $5 to have 3 games, assuming they're not super short, which seems like they aren't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be reviewed positively. This looks like a series I may have overlooked and I should put on my follow list or the wish list directly. Alright. So I could just finish one more game and go for a win streak. I think I want to do that. So we'll play one more game. TechRaptor has an article, Diablo Rewind Review, Smooth the Descent. I assume this is a review of the Good Old Games port. It says the Good Old Game port in itself is bare bones, which I'm not really surprised there. The launcher gives you 2 options to choose from. You can pick the classic version, presenting Diablo in 640 by 480 resolution at 20 frames per second. This really doesn't look good on a widescreen monitor, and it might mess up your desktop a bit. On the other hand, there's an updated version which uses your desktop's resolution in a 4:3 resolution aspect ratio. It doesn't look too bad on a widescreen monitor if you don't mind the black stripes. I think you would just have to live with the black stripes. Of course, that is a pretty bad translation there too. Like, why not just have it rewritten to be widescreen and remaster the game properly? I wonder if the Diablo 1 version that is being listed here on Good Old Games is an experiment to see how many people are interested in a remastered version. The port doesn't include any of the quality of life improvements that you'll get from projects like the Diablo HD mod, which I'd highly recommend if you're a veteran. So I imagine you could be playing it modded. I found out, I saw on YouTube that there was actually a Borderlands 2 mod that changes the appearance of a lot of the guns and tweaks a few things. It doesn't seem like it drastically changes the gameplay experience though. If anything, I think it makes it slower to level up so that there's more reason to continue playing, which would be the opposite of what I would want.
Halt! Who goes there?
Let's see. They're also recommending the clicker mod, unless you feel like punishing your tendons. I assume the clicker mod automatically clicks because in Diablo that's what you were doing, is just like left clicking all the time for every attack on something. And yeah, that.
Speak your peace.
That is probably something that I wouldn't want to do nowadays. You know, games like Diablo might be the reason why I have a small bit of arthritis in my fingers. Let's see, the re-release doesn't include the expansion pack Hellfire, probably because it was developed by Sierra Studios, Synergistic Software.
Tactical error.
And so you're not even getting the Hellfire expansion. You could download the free mod such as the Awakening to make up for this. So this really is just a list of mods. Hey, check out this mod. Hey Diablo, check out this mod. Let's see. I kind of want an accelerated experience if I was to play Diablo. Honestly, if it came to Steam, I would buy it certainly, but I might just do a 30-minute spotlight and then move over to Torchlight, because Torchlight is a much better improvement.
Welcome.
Good Old Games gave the Good Old, TechRaptor gave the Good Old Games port an 8.5 great. Summary: the Good Old Game ports could use some quality of life improvements, but Diablo shines through as a rugged classic it will always be. The pros are great setting and soundtrack, loot cycle still compelling, and tough swarm battles. Let's play this.
Reporting for duty.
And this. And we'll do this.
The battle! The battle!
Okay.
Job done.
The cons are the port feels bare bone, and Succubi are still annoying. So yeah, there's so many Diablo-like clones that came after the fact, and it's just such an old game. It's hard to justify to try to spend the time to play it all the way through. Let's see, next spell you cast costs 3 less to cover a spell. If I'm gonna do anything,
Reporting for duty.
I should do this.
The battle! The battle! The battle!
Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Action arcade game Radical Rabbit Stew has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is what it looks like. Looks like it's a probably fast-paced, looking at all these bullets, top-down twin-stick shooter of some sort. If I was to guess. Yeah, there's no video or anything here. Let's see. It'll be playable at PAX East 2019 in Boston on March 28th to the 31st, and EGX Rezzed in London on April 4th to the 6th. Okay. It's due out in 2020.
Let me think.
Wow. Okay, well, this,
Reporting for duty.
and then that,
Job done.
and then in the turn. I was hoping for a spell that would have done damage, and I didn't find one. GameIndustry.biz, the Philadelphia Overwatch team is getting a $50 million arena The Fusion owner Comcast Spectator is investing in a 3,500 seat venue to beginning housing events in 2021. I feel like a lot of this is being funded just so that they can have an arena. Like, it doesn't really matter if Overwatch makes them any money or not. It just matters, frankly, for the people building the building, that they can put something there, and you can always put something there. Arenas are pretty highly profitable, often because you're getting the cities to give you tax incentives or write-offs. It's time to move over to the Asian account. So, like, it's, I don't know if I'd call it a scam, but it's a pretty good deal to run arenas. And there's like one major company that runs a lot of them. Yeah, the thing about arenas too is every event you have there is going to be an overpriced event with overpriced concessions and overpriced admission fees. And so if you have a comic book convention there, everything there will be overpriced. If you have an anime convention there, everything will be overpriced. If you have TED Talks there, it's going to be overpriced because this article says it will host everything from TED Talks to K-pop concerts in the Fusion arena. If you have a concert there, it's going to be overpriced. Like, nothing goes cheap at an arena just because it's in an arena. So we need to do at least 2 of these. But let's open these packs first. Last opportunity for today to get a legendary. Although even if I did get a legendary in these packs, I'm not sure that will really mean anything. More than likely, most of the cards in these packs will never even get played, even if they were very helpful, and they'll just get dusted once they go to wild. Yeah, it'll be an interesting question to if I just keep on playing Hearthstone, at some point I may have so much dust that I can just craft everything in standard version. I don't think I'd ever get to the point where I have so much dust I can get everything in golden version. So at some level I should undust everything I've dusted in wild and try to have a complete collection. Let's see. But at the moment we're still very much dusting gold. Unless we don't have 2 of them, then I'll keep them. And I'm not dusting all of these because a lot of these are new apparently, although I don't think that's actually true. I have like 3,000 dust on the Asian account, 5,000 dust on the European account, and 1,000 dust on the Americas account. So I am all over the board as far as how much dust I have. Let's just play Priest. Priest, play. Let's see.
Anduin versus Anduin.
Tim Sweeney, the guy in charge of, this is the Game of Sutra article. Tim Sweeney, the guy in charge of talking about the Epic Store, has committed to human moderators and quality filters for the Epic Games Store. Quote, "We have a storefront now too. Big whoop. Our storefront isn't going to be the be-all and end-all either."
Is someone injured?
That's a weird quote.
Is someone injured?
Game of Sutra and a lot of the mainstream video game journalist sites are still trying to push the Epic Store a lot more than I think actual people who actually pay for video games are trying to are trying to
Right
do.
away.
Like, at the current time, there's nothing nice I can really say about the Epic Store. It doesn't seem like it is a consumer-friendly option in any way, and I think you'd be foolish to want to follow it and make that the home for all your
Right
video
away.
games. You couldn't really do it, but anyways, if you wanted to. Moving on, TechCraft has an article. Nintendo of America has apparently stopped selling Wii U gamepad batteries. So, unless you're going to hand program in or hand solder in and find replacement
Injured?
batteries, or plug it in, and maybe you can play it while it's plugged in. That might be an
Right away.
opportunity that we have. Look at that, three cards on one heel. That's too many cards. That is way too many cards. I'm gonna regret this real fast. So yeah, the Wii U, the Nintendo stopped production of the Wii U back in January 2017. There are some laws in some countries that you have to give support and replacement products for something for a certain amount of time, but I imagine we are approaching a point where that is no longer a concern.
Let the pain speak to me.
Right away. Right away. Right away.
Let's see. I could heal all and then silence a minion if I wanted to, but I can just end the turn here too. There are actually quite a bit of Wii U games I was not aware of that probably need to be all ported to the Switch, and I think most of them are going to be ported to the Switch pretty easily, but there is a danger in just not doing a good job about it. Let's see. Double health? Not yet. Let's discover a copy of a spell. That works. Silence a minion. That works. So we've got everything. I could draw 3 more cards right now.
Quickly.
Right.
Right away.
Attack.
Right away.
Attack.
Right away.
Attack. 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 And I can't do anything more, but I've got this.
The hand is too full.
Yeah, there definitely will be a few games that don't get ported to the Switch or take forever to get ported to the Switch, and we may not see them playable again until there's an emulator that can run Wii U games, which may take a while. GameIndustry.biz has another article. Game, the company in the UK, the video game store, European games retailer, shrugs off Google Stadia threat. So that apparently they don't consider it a big threat, which I wouldn't really be surprised. Interesting. He's burning off all my cards. If he can find a way to stop this one or this one, he'll win. Okay. double. A little bit more. A little bit more. You know what? Actually, I could have doubled again. I played that wrong. Yeah, does this article really say anything else? The game boss, Martin Gibbs, is, quote, erring on the side of excitement when it comes to Google Stadia. Yeah, I don't know if any real concern should be held right now as far as Google Stadia. Because Google, I mean, unless they are just going all in on video games and away from search as their main product, and they're really going to commit to that, that's probably a good idea for Google if they became more of a Microsoft-like company where there's Xbox, and then there's also Microsoft Windows, and then there's Microsoft server products, there are Azure line of products, and then there's Microsoft Word and Excel. If Google had more things that weren't all kind of just in existence to put ads in front of people's faces, it might help them in a lot of different venues, particularly with the EU constantly finding them for things. So if Stadia succeeds, that would be great. That might be very good as a YouTuber who is a video game critic, but also it won't ever get to the level that all video games are on Stadia and exclusive to Stadia, and nobody can own a video game in any form or fashion. I mean, we're barely owning a game at this point anyways, where we're licensing it and downloading it through a online service. But I don't want to take that next step and make it even worse. Next we have a game on Steam called Virefit. V-I-R-E Fit. It looks like it's a VR exercise game of several different kinds. I would prefer to see them make one good boxing game versus a boxing game that also has basketball and tennis. This feels like it's a bunch of experiments in programming more than actual games, and inherently this is just standing in one place and swinging your hands around. This requires VR. It's $29.74 discounted right now. That is extremely expensive. And there's a bunch of Russian text in the name, which that's slightly a concern too. English and Russian are the only languages. So yeah, I don't see a reason why I would need to put this on the fall list. I kind of question why the boxing models are just these like fake. Let's see if we can get a picture of them. No, you have to watch the video to see them, I guess. When in the boxing sections, the bodies are just like mechanical dolls fighting each other instead of humans for what seems like no reason whatsoever. Yep. Okay. So if I do this and then this, that should get me close enough.
I can
that.
see.
Well, apparently that's all it took to break the spirit of that guy. Let's just keep on playing. TechRaptor has an article. Amazon UK says Super Mario Maker 2 will be released on June 12th. Okay, I don't think there's really anything else to say there. If it comes out on June 12th, they're right. If it doesn't, whatever. Whenever it comes out, it comes out.
The light shall bring victory.
Let's see. I kind of want to hold on to everything, so I'm just going to leave that. We have a game on Steam, P-Cross Hansel and Gretel Nonograms. Let's see. So this is nonograms, I guess. P-Cross. Looks like there's some match 2 mini games in it too. It's not a bad idea to have a couple different ones. There's a limited number of puzzles here. It's 200 for 59 cents and 40 cents off. Or you can buy a bundle of a bunch of things for $16.68. Or you can buy the Picross bundle for $4.24. It's English, French, German, and Russian in the languages. Let's look at this developer and this publisher and see what games have been published and what they've been reviewed at. This feels like a developer who's just flooding the Steam store with puzzle games. I'm not really seeing any of them get reviewed, so nobody's really playing them. So, yeah. I don't really see a reason to put this on the follow list. I don't know what would push me into doing a Picross or Nonograms game. It seems like it's a simplistic enough concept that it should just be a mini game in a bigger game, or it's a concept that most people would figure out and know if that's something that interests them without even having to see a coverage of it. Maybe I'm being a little too simplistic on that.
Right
but,
away. Right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that P-Cross and Nonograms also take a lot of time to solve one. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Knights of Tartarus ventures out from Steam Early Access this April. So this is again a hype game. This looks like a Game Boy style looking game. Let's get a little trailer. I'll watch that as I'm playing over here.
Right away. Right away.
Come on, trailer. Start playing. Yeah, Knights of Tartarus looks like an NES game. And I'm still very much in the feeling that if I was going to play something that looked like an NES game, it better be an NES game that actually came out during that time.
Right away.
And not something
Right away.
that is simply just trying to ape that experience. Because of, I guess, a lack of ability to animate to modern graphics, which is my assumption. Next we have a game on Steam called Katana Soul, which looks like a Commodore game. This might be an old Commodore game, or it might just be designed to look like an old Commodore game.
Must consider.
Let's see. Yeah, it's a new game designed to look like a Commodore game. It's the same argument as I just made, though. Like, I'm not willing to play a game that looks like an old game for no reason.
Right away.
Yeah, and if I was going to play Katana Soul, why not play The Messenger first? Because that's at least doing something more interesting there. And let's see if this developer has developed anything else that is been reviewed. Well, there's a couple other games that are rated positively, but they're all kind of retro games that don't appeal to me.
I must consider.
Alright, let's hope that that's enough cards to do this, and then this, and then let's just
Right
see.
away. Right away.
This.
Oh.
Here we go. And in return, Gamatsu has an article, Star Ocean Fest 2019, set for May 2025. This is a Square Enix hosted festival for Star Ocean. These little Japanese festivals don't usually have anything interesting to say or anything new to announce. GameIndustry.biz has an article, Valve adds a soft currency gambling to Dota Plus subscription. Let's see. There we go. Users can now bet on Dota Pro Circuit matches with shards, the companion app's currency. Hey, we might actually make it up to rank 19 at this rate. So it's quote, designed to enhance your experience for every Dota Pro Circuit event. It is already available through the Dota Pro Circuit companion app on the App Store and Google Play. The app uses a currency called shards, and that currency can now be used to place bets on Dota Pro Circuit matches. You'll be able to wager your personal stash of plus shards to predict the winners of the Dota Pro Circuit matches, with winnings added to your in-game total. Is there a way to bring in or out the shards, or is this just a fake currency that you are just given or earned through playing? And says Kotaku pointed out, prior to this new feature, shards were earned by completing quests, earning hero XP, and predicting the winner of their own matches. With this new feature, users can gamble up to 100 shards on matches using odds supplied by Valve. While this does represent a form of gambling, it's important to note that shards cannot be bought for real money, earned by Dota Plus subscribers. So you have to be a subscriber to get the shards, but there's nothing else in that. Valve introduced Dota Plus subscription in March 2018, which combined features associated with a battle pass and an in-game analysis tool called the Plus Assistant. The cost of Dota Plus is $3.99 a month. That's a lot of money, frankly. So yeah, Valve can't make games, but they can make gambling. This is probably the least offensive way possible to do something like this, but it may very well have been demanded by players of Dota, but it's not gonna look good to any outsiders. Certainly doesn't sound like a good idea to me, as somebody who doesn't watch Dota or play Dota. GameIndustry.biz has an article, Kraftons, that's Krafton, hunt for the next PUBG. The game union behind Terra, T-E-R-A, and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds discusses its unique approach to working with game developers. Do we have somebody that we can play? One the Korean Game at the Korean Game Expo G-Star last year, the newly rebranded Krafton Games Game Union, formerly known as Bluehole, because that's who I thought was the company over PUBG. Apparently they changed their name. So they're talking about they're looking for new games to publish and provide money to. This is kind of more of an advertisement for Krafton though than an actual informative statement. Let's see. I severely doubt that Krafton would find another PUBG, because PUBG was just kind of a fluke, and it was so easy to copy that people immediately went to the free clone of Fortnite. And now a lot of people have gone from PUBG to Fortnite to Apex Legends or something else. It's a very flippant audience when you're talking about Battle Royale and first-person shooter game players. Alright. I've just gotta hope this works. Yes. One, two, three. Got it. 1, 2.
That was a mistake.
And 3. And attack.
That was a mistake.
Let's see what he does with that. Because he's got all these cards. He's totally right. There might be a way to kill this guy just by silencing him. If any one of those is silence, that kills it. If any of those is taunt, it delays it for a turn.
What to do?
So he's saying that's a mistake. That's a mistake. It sure doesn't seem like he knows what to do about this. Come on, reveal. He had enough. He had enough to win. Okay. There was, I don't believe, anything else I could have done in that instance, though. Next, we have a game on Steam called Mango Kart, which looks like it's kind of a resource management game. It looks pretty bad. Yeah, this seems like it's a strategy trading game for $8.09 discounted. Yeah, that doesn't look interesting. I've played a couple of trading games, strategy games. None of them have ever really been that fun. The idea is, I think, just a flawed idea as far as an entertaining prospect, because I think it really just boils down to the same old problem as I personally, and I don't think very many people do, want to play a game that is just somebody's job. If it's a job, it's usually not fun. There's not an easy way to turn something that is unfun into being fun.
The pleasure is mine.
Next, we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian characters, and it's called Woods Landing. It looks like it's a almost clicker game. It looks like an RPG, but then why are the bars filling up? It seems like it's a rhythm clicker kind of game.
I will be your death.
And it just seems like you don't ever really get off that screen. Early access for $7.89. Yeah. English and simplified Chinese. That in no way looks appealing. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Kabam acquires Reposit Games and Company, the Montreal-based developer, to continue support for past titles like as Kabam takes over publishing miniguns. I don't know either of these companies though, so yeah, and there's no listing of what games. Oh, okay.
I wonder.
Let's see. Do I need to play this yet? No. Support for existing titles such as Miniguns, Dungeon Stars, and Shop Heroes. And it is also working on at least one new release. I haven't heard of any of those games. I imagine they're just mobile things. Let's see. And the rest of these articles might all be the Sony State of Play that was started as I started streaming. So there might be a consideration in that. So TechRaptor has an article, Sony State of Play 325 Observation release date. So the game Observation is coming out 5/21/2019 according to the screenshot. This is Devolver Digital's game Observation, a horror game where you control a space station and observe this. It'll be launching May 21st on PlayStation 4. All the announcement dates here will just be PlayStation release dates. And the thing that is missing almost certainly in this is the thing that will be missing will be like any release dates on any other consoles, or whether it's actually an exclusive or not. And unless there's an announcement, I have yet to see whether there's any tease for PlayStation 5, because now I've seen one story talking about a game coming out on PlayStation 4. If they were going to at their State of Play, which means almost certainly this year they're not announcing a PlayStation 5, unless they're going to try and sneak that out after E3, because they're not doing anything for E3.
Let the pain speak to me.
So yeah, if they were going to announce a PlayStation 5 here, they would have announced it at the beginning, and all the games would have said coming out for PlayStation 4 at this time and PlayStation 5 soon. But since one story said just PlayStation 4, that pretty much means there will be no announcement for PlayStation 5. That's how I read that, at least.
Is someone injured?
Yes. This and in the turn. Next article we have Sony State of Play 325 Ready Set Heroes. This is all just gonna be very short articles. I can show the screenshot of Ready Set Heroes. It looks like it's a top-down game of some fighting sense. It's a couch co-op game supporting 2 local players. Robot Games is developing it. Yeah, not really a lot to say there. You're holding a dragon. Choose a minion, add a copy to your hand. Place that.
Right away.
That. Just draw a couple cards that way. Just end the turn there. See, Gamma Sutra has the same article, the obituary for Take-Two founder Ryan Brandt. Yeah, still no explanation on what he died from.
No idea what I'm capable of.
This is another great example of people not really doing any journalism in the journalism. Because if they were doing any journalism, they would have tried to research and find some basic answers. Double health. Okay. Double the health.
Right away.
Attack. And I have another double health I can do. But that won't really do anything. Okay, we have a game on Steam that I think I'll just go ahead and say maybe we can show it off because it's a low effort troll game anyways. Yeah, so we have on Steam Hentai Shooter 2 World Tour, and here you have is that supposed to be Gorbachev or Putin? I can't even tell in the stacking doll. And then you have an American looking woman and a Chinese looking woman and I guess American looking man, and then you have an Egyptian looking woman who's in ancient Egyptian clothing. Clearly a low effort game for 59 cents. They're trying to sell you an entire bundle for $19.13 or a whole nother bundle for $38.08. Then uncensored art collection costs you another $2.99 in DLC. So they're trying to rip you off in many different ways for these low effort garbage games. Alright. Play this. This. Do this.
Someone injured?
Silence this guy. And double this one's health again. And end the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Interstellar Prime. This looks really good. This is a space game. This per se doesn't look that good.
This guy.
Yeah, one cutscene looks good. This doesn't look like it's just all in space, and so maybe I'd be willing to try this. This is an early access game. It's not even out yet. I'll put this on the follow list and see. Well, you know what? It's not even out yet. I shouldn't even put it on the follow list. But if it was a real game, and it's merging RPG, real-time strategy, and space simulation games genres together, that is something different than what we normally have as an opportunity.
Right away.
I'm just gonna hit that and do that. And then I guess I can just play that. Do that. Do that. Well, if I found the game that interests me, even if it isn't out yet, I should put it on the follow list because I might miss it later. Next we have a game on Steam called Documentary, which I feel like I've seen a game by this name before, but I don't think it looked
You have
that
no
good.
idea what I'm capable of.
What is this? No, it looks like you're playing as not even a duck. That's not what a duck looks like in my mind. And looks like you're playing as a rooster. Yeah, you're playing as a hen, not a duck. It even says that. This is weird. This is a weird looking game. Looks like it's an assortment of a bunch of mini games. It's $1.39 discounted right now, and it's English, Korean, Chinese, and Japanese, and I can't tell who developed it, frankly, if it was an English company, a Korean company, a Chinese company, or a Japanese company. I'll put this on the follow list and see if people actually play it and like it. There's there's a decent chance though that wouldn't ever reach a level of reviews. I don't know if enough people will ever try it to review it. Gematsu has an article. Delightworks announces Unreal Engine 4 game project for smartphones. Announced at Anime Japan 2019. And we can see here there's a very anime-looking screenshot of a girl. Although this is kind of a different art style. It's a bit rounder of head, a bit rounder head than normal. She's being stabbed by some kind of magic or thorn. There's a bit of trailer here, but these Japanese trailers tend to be more flash than substance. So I'll watch it and we'll see what it is. It's a smartphone game, so I would not be surprised if it's really just a visual novel. And the visual novels always manage to make themselves look bigger and better than they probably are. So the trailer is just showing a 3D CG girl on her phone, like I assume Japanese schoolgirl, high schooler probably. It's not showing her face or anything, it's showing her feet and showing her hands on the phone, which means that they are both hiding the fact that they didn't bother to animate a face, or hiding her face for some other reason. And it seems like the texting is getting more and more common, or faster paced, as if she's like, I don't know what it's saying, because she might be breaking up with somebody or something else. And then she dropped her phone, and then there's a bunch of other things, and then it looks like she just cut her wrist and blood came out and turned into those vine things. So yeah,
must consider.
let's see, they're saying the optimal story experience while pursuing both visual expression and fun as a game. The key phrase teased in the trailer is "growing up hurts." So I would guess that the character is going through a bad breakup. Well, if that comes out to the West, that'll be interesting, but it'll be a mobile game anyway, so yeah, it's not something I would cover unless it also comes to Steam. Next we have a game on Steam. I'm about to lose on this Hearthstone game called Infinitely Up, which looks like a simple one-screen Unity physics game where you're just trying to build higher and higher. Seen far too many of these, and none of them have offered anything unique enough for me to want to spend time with them. It's discounted to 59 cents, so it's as cheap as it could be. If this looks like something that appeals to you, this would probably be a fine version of this. It's got 6 achievements, so it might be easy to get all the achievements if that matters to you, but otherwise it's just generic. Let's see, can I show off this one? Is this YouTube family friendly? I'm gonna say probably, but just to err on the side of caution, we have a game on Steam called Hardcore Puzzle, which is slide puzzles with anime girls lying on a bed, and the slide puzzles are shuffled, so I can't really just instantly look at them and see what bits are showing or what aren't. There's at least one screenshot where one's in a pretty small micro bikini or mini bikini. Might be a better descriptor of it. So there's a lot of flesh being shown there. 59 cents discounted. Again, these lewd games, not worth it. If they're not going to bother to put a story in it, if they're not going to bother to have a single character that you're pursuing over the course of the gameplay. It's really not something that you should spend any money on. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Persona 5, The Royal, announced for PS4. More information coming April 24th. I think they also teased Persona 5, the animation, Stars and Ours broadcast. So they like teased several things, and there's like a Persona 5 Super Live concert. Persona 5 The Royal, as an expansion of Persona 5, feels to me like it's a little out of place, and they should be instead focusing on Persona 6 instead of just expanding Persona 5. If you wanted to tell more story with the characters from Persona 5, you probably should bring them back in like a future Persona game. Like, you could do Persona 6 as a whole new group of people, or you could do Persona 6 where it brings back the characters from Persona 5, 1, 2, and 3, because I think each of the Persona games really had different groups of people. But yeah, it seems like they're milking that franchise a little too much, which is typical of Japanese companies. And sadly, Persona never came to PC, and Atlas of Japan doesn't believe in fair use, so streaming the game all the way through to the end is against their made-up personal rules. So even if it was on PC, I don't know how I could cover it without potentially getting a DMCA takedown request. Persona 5 The Royal was previously known or rumored to be Persona 5R. TechRaptor has the same article on it. I think some of the team, if I'm remembering correctly, I think some of the team that somebody wants to be my friend. Okay, let's see what happens there. See if he wants to challenge a friend and give me 80 gold. I could play Druid deck. Let's see. Heading into play mode. Let's just watch this guy who just friended me and see if he wants to challenge me. Like, I'm giving him every opportunity to challenge me, and it doesn't seem like he's gonna do it. This friend system on Hearthstone is so underused and so pointless that the only reason I assume anybody would ever want to friend me is because they want to get the challenge a friend quest done. But apparently he just wanted to friend me, which is okay, cool, whatever. Let's play this. Maybe if you friend people, you don't play them in ranked. So you just friend everybody who's good at the game and only play against bad people. This game looks weird. We have a game here on Steam called Bunny Parking, which kind of feels like it's trying to do a cheap ripoff of Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny combined, and usually this is a 2D top-down puzzle game where you would slide cards to make room, but it seems like it's been made into a multiplayer game where you just grief the other players. I don't think it actually improves the top-down ability, and there's a lot of stuff here that just seems like it's randomly added. I don't think this puzzle is improved one bit by being 3D. I think it makes it worse. of an experience because it's just harder to accomplish your goal. Let's see, this developer also has a game called Bunny Mahjong and Bunny Minesweeper, so they seem to just be adding the bunnies for no reason. 13 achievements, bunch of languages. It's selling for 20% discount for $2.39. Yeah, I think that's a pass. Your hero attacks and kills a minion, draw a card. Okay. Next we have a game on Steam called Human Pinball, and its dark screenshot syndrome immediately. And I don't see anything here that looks like a human as a pinball. Well, it seems like you're just running around some very dark asset flips. Maybe there's a blue orb in one screenshot that you're supposed to be pushing. This trailer is not giving me any kind of idea at all.
The scourge will devour all.
Yeah, there's a blue ball, and as a human you're bumping into this blue ball and trying to roll it down what is a giant environments that are somewhat pinball-like. But I think that's a pretty bad descriptor. Human Pinball Ice Age is $8.99 with no discount. And apparently they've re-released it. So it was not... This was on Steam before, and it still looks like garbage, so I don't know why you re-release it other than you're trying to manipulate the release date and get it to show up as a popular upcoming game. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Pix Vault, which this does not look like a very large amount of effort on this thumbnail, and every screenshot looks basically the same as a stand in the middle tower defense shooting guns style game. This is $2.99 discounted. Yeah, nothing there. This and that and that. And what do we want to do?
Your magic shall not save you.
That and that. I'm almost out of news, but there's some more news that I'm gonna have to look on my Twitter feed. But yeah, we're definitely not going to a third stream at this point. I need to change the timing. I said this at the end of the last stream too, though, is that I needed to change when it tells me to make the next recording, because at an hour and a half I'm only making 2 episodes. At an hour I was making 3 or 4. Let's see. Poisonous. Can't be targeted by spells or hero power.
Job's done.
Interesting. Next we have a game, it's Too Rainy Day. That's not English. This looks like it's the exact same screen, and I don't even know what's going on in this game. This game is about how good weather can please under the torrential rain. This looks like just a tower defense game, and see, this person who is talking to me now is going to get removed because he's just typing in Japanese and I don't know anything what he said. He probably just said hi since it was just one symbol.
Where shall I strike?
Yeah, this game, It's Too Rainy Day, is 59 cents discounted. It looks terrible, and it doesn't make any sense. Next, we have a game on Steam called Pokerus, which looks like a Windows 95 game where you're playing poker cards to play Tetris, which doesn't really make any sense and looks horrible. It's 99 cents with no discount.
What to do?
Yeah, so Poker's not making it. YouTube content creators, I think they had a funny thing to say here. Let's see. On March 23rd, they tweeted out, "This is embarrassing. The original song by It's Dan Bull and remixed by Grande with editing by Dylan Kemp 3. We apologize for the error." So they had previously tweeted out a song called Robo Copyright and misattributed it. So, I mean, this is YouTube not being able to keep its stuff together yet again. Not being able to keep its poop together to actually even properly attribute a song. Gematsu has an article. Localization company lists Professor Layton and the Curious Village for the Switch. So the first Professor Layton game possibly is coming for the Switch, is possibly coming out.
versus Luna.
Professor Layton and the Curious Village first launched on the DS in 2007, followed by an iOS and Android port in 2018, which, if it came to iOS and Android, then that is a pretty good evidence that it could come to the Switch. It's really just a matter of whether Nintendo wants to go down that path, and I think at this point it's pretty obvious that they're giving up on the 3DS and the new 3DS and all of that and just focusing on the Switch. TechRaptor has an article. Gamers for Orcas hosted a 24-hour live stream for conservation fundraising. The stream started Friday, March 24th. Don't know how much they raised. The article doesn't really say, so again, I'm of the opinion if you're doing a live stream to raise fundraising, good on you as a streamer, but you're really just doing it to get attention for yourself as much as for the the organization you're raising funds for. It benefits the streamer more than the amount of money that actually goes towards the charity. And it is still way smarter for people to just donate directly to a charity if they want to, and not and get that tax write-off than donate through a middle party that then gets the tax write-off. With maybe the exception of the Humble Bundle, because then you're donating to a charity. Well, you're not getting a tax write-off, you're probably getting something that might be more valuable in the form of an extremely cheap video game. That really depends on whether you wanted the video game or not.
I fight.
Twitch support an hour ago says we've resolved issues related to emotes, settings not loading in subscriptions. Thanks for your reports. 2 hours ago they said they've added more tags for music streamers, whether it's for discussion productions or authorized playbacks of music on Twitch. Improve your channel's discovery with these tags. And there's frankly several other things here with errors and bugs getting mentioned, so Twitch is also in part having some trouble. It has been pretty consistent. I think Twitch maybe just talks about their errors on their Twitter a little bit too often, and that's part of the problem. If they just did not announce a problem unless it was of a certain level, big enough to be mentionable, they'd probably look a little bit better. Next we have a game on Steam called Antipodal. This looks like a black and white Super Meat Boy platformer game. It also looks like it's a nightmare game designed to just have you die over and over again. Yeah, and the camera zooms out to do this reverse or inverse graphics, which then just makes the game even harder to see. It looks low effort. It's $1.99. Doesn't interest me. Let's see, while you it's in your hands. This is a 3/4 copy of the last minion you played. Okay. Interesting. See, hit that, and that. See, next we have a game on Steam called Flashpoint. I believe there was a... No, I'm confusing that with Flashback. This looks like a low effort asset flip first person shooter. Yeah, nothing really here of any interest. Early access for $4.99. Yep. So I could play this again. This. Do this. Go ahead and attack with that one.
For the wilds.
And then that puts me at the Humble Bundle. So let's see if there's a new Humble Bundle. There's a web programming bundle thing. The strategy games bundle, strategy 2019 games bundle is ending in like 17 hours. The books bundle, Eat Like a Geek, is ending in like a day and 17 hours. But yeah, no new game bundles. And frankly, webmastering programming, I don't think you really need to read a book about that, because all of that is online pretty easily. Maybe you need to take a class and be educated by somebody who knows what they're doing, but that's about it. We have Emilio coming on the chat and immediately posting 3 fast comments. Hi, what's your win condition in this deck? And trade 1/1. So he sounds like he wants the backseat drive. Alright, here's my win condition on this deck. 100%. I've had 1 win, 0 losses. That may be because my tracker has not saved this deck before, or it may simply be because I just rebuilt all of my decks a couple of days ago. But it's about to be 200% win condition. Right. So I'm on my Twitter feed. Let me see if there's any more announcements from the Sony State of Play announcement. Otherwise, we are done for today. There's a game called Tree Simulator 2020. That's obviously a low effort game. Shanti 5 has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and Apple devices. That would have been part of the Apple announcement. Let's see, what am I... Do I even have more Droid things to announce? Yeah, let's just not even do it. Your Lego tower can be personalized to be one of a kind, says Nimblebit. which is a Lego, one of the Apple Lego games that was announced for Apple's thing. Okay. PlayStation VR release dates were announced an hour ago. So we'll look at that article. I think that might really be it, though. No Man's Sky VR for Sony State of Play. Seriously, yeah, like, there's no more news. So the State of Play announced barely 3 things. As far as what is getting reported. So, we have over here a game called Tree Simulator 2020. Clearly, this is not anything but a low-effort asset flip game on Steam for 59 cents. We can go ahead and close that. Let's see. We have on Gamatsu, Shanti 5 announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC and Apple devices, due out in 2019. That means I still haven't bought like the remaster, I think, of the first Shanti game, and that's why I haven't played any of them. I would like to play them all before Shanti 5 comes out. That would be nice. I probably wouldn't get around to that, though. Like, honestly, I don't even know if there's a sale that's going to happen between now and basically October, November, or December. And then TechRaptor has Sony State of Play 325 PSVR release dates. So let's see what games. Mini Mech Mayhem, Jupiter and Mars. Let's see. Third game was called Falcon Age. And then Tower Saves the Universe. And then Everybody's Golf VR. They don't even have pictures here. And then Table of Tales. And then Vacation Simulator. And yeah, there's just this one video. And that's it. That probably is the trailer for all of the games. Let's see. 1 minute long. Like 1 minute long to show off all the PlayStation VR videos. Just to tease them. They said, I think they said the State of Play video was going to be 30 minutes. And I was saying that, well, geez, it's more likely that you would have 11 games or so and give 3 minutes to them than 10 games and give 10 minutes to them. And it seems like they went the other way, and they really did just have 3 games that they gave 10 minutes to. Not really, but nothing was given a lot of time here. 3 main things to talk about. Seems like all that is being reported right now. Maybe I'm just getting bad information, and it was more said at the State of Play. And then TechRaptor has another article, the State of Play, No Man's Sky VR. No Man's Sky, though, you would be a fool to ever play this at this point. Regardless of how much it's been patched or improved, or the fact that it has PlayStation VR support, or even computer VR support, which I assume it might adapt. Yeah, it will use Steam VR too. I don't know, I guess maybe if you're just desperate to play something in VR, No Man's Sky is probably better than most of the garbage VR games out there. So that might be an argument there for that, but not much. Alright, well, we've gotten more than enough done for Wednesday, and there is still that possibility that Tuesday around noon I will stream, because we'll be able to look at all the new cards in the new expansion. If that is the case, then I'll make a special stream. Otherwise, I will be back on Wednesday to cover more daily quests, and more video game news. That's it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good